my beloved child. When you seek miracles but do not seek me, your faith will wither like a lamp without oil. When you want heaven to answer but refuse to change yourself, your heart becomes cracked, dry ground that cannot bear fruit. I did not call you to learn how to control me, but for you to learn how to let me guide your life. And as Scripture reminds us, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Mount 158, a sentence that shines a light on the reality of a faith turned into a formula. Where miracles are preferred to conversion, many people imagine that if they recite the right words, perform the right action, press at the right moment, heaven will open like an automatic door. But I, the one who created the universe, am not a switch you flip whenever you need a miracle. When faith is reduced to a sequence of steps, your soul slowly dries up, because instead of seeking me, you seek results. I want you to wake up. Miracles are not born of technique, but of a heart led into the light, a heart that knows how to lay down the ego, that knows how to let me be Lord rather than a response on demand. If the image of me in your heart revolves only around financial balance sheets, promises of success, or quick escapes, then your faith is being diluted by short-term dreams. I can touch your finances, I can renew your living conditions, but that has never been the core of the gospel. You follow me not to get more, but to become the truest version of yourself, a soul that knows conversion, that knows how to carry the cross, that knows how to live in the light even when the road has not yet widened. Remember, wherever you treat me as a tool, your soul will struggle to recognize real love. Many prefer to see themselves as victims of darkness and to blame every failure on mysterious forces pulling the strings. But when your heart is set only on blaming, you will never see your own unfaithfulness. I do not deny there is an unseen battle, but I want you to understand conversion is the most important victory. And it is precisely there that you will grow, not through fear of being stalked, but through the courage to face yourself, to face wrong choices, distorted passions, and the wounds that need healing. When you dare to return to me in truth, the miracle has already begun. When I look upon people today, I see many souls who come to me with reverence, yet leave with a faith shrunk into mere procedures. My child, there are times I see you standing before me while your heart is turned toward formulas. You mouth each phrase, repeat each gesture, believing that if you do enough, I must open heaven's doors in reply. But you forget that I am the living God, not an algorithm. I listen to the cry of your heart, not to strings of sentences spoken like passwords. That is why long ago I spoke through the prophet, this people draws near with their mouth and honors me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, is 2913. You see, from the beginning until now, the human heart still leans easily toward outward forms, while the heart, the place where I desire to dwell, is handed over to lifeless habits. My child, the greatest danger is not that you do not believe, but that you think you believe while in truth you are only performing. When faith is compressed into a process, it loses its breath. Some say to one another, just follow the instructions and heaven will approve. Repeat the 3 steps and grace will flow. Type the right phrase and paradise will open. But I am not an automated system. My love does not operate like a chemical reaction you trigger with symbolic gestures. I act according to my love, according to my wise providence, according to the moment your soul needs it most. This is what those who search for the activation secret of miracles will never understand, because they come to seek benefit, not to seek me. When you turn me into a machine that responds, you also, without realizing it, turn yourself into the controller and place me in the position of having to comply. But my child, if I acted according to every desire of yours, I would no longer be Lord. For ages I have taught my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways. My ways is 558. Consider it if I answered every impulsive expectation of yours. Your life would no longer be guided by wisdom, but by your own rashness, and that is something I will never allow. Some say, I believe, why doesn't God act? But in truth, what they want is not me. What they want is an outcome. When the outcome does not arrive on their preferred timeline, they conclude their faith is not strong enough, or they must find a new formula. My child, faith is not a transaction. When you truly believe, you still stand firm, even when the rain has not yet come, even when the sea has not yet parted, even when the door of my house still seems shut before your eyes. Mature faith does not say, I do first, then God does after, but says, even if I see nothing, I still entrust myself, and that surrender opens the way for a far deeper kind of miracle, the miracle of a renewed heart. Prayer is the same. It is not a password to open a vault of blessings, not a mysterious code to release grace. Prayer is where you allow me to reshape your will to align with mine, where you are drawn nearer to my sacred heart rather than to your own desires. But when prayer is turned into a tool to get what you want, it loses its soul. I do not measure your prayer by its length or repetition, but by the truth in your heart when you say to me, Father, let your will be done. And my child, it is precisely here that the most subtle darkness often slips in. The devil does not need to make people abandon faith in a crude way. He only needs to mechanize it. When faith becomes mere procedure, the soul grows rigid without noticing. When people believe miracles can be activated, they easily confuse faith with superstition. They chase powerful-sounding phrases, symbolic actions, and tips to make heaven respond. But I do not operate within mystical illusions staged by human hands. I come to those who open their hearts, not to those who merely open locks. Many prefer quick, convenient faith because it gives them a sense of control. They imagine that if they press the right point, heaven must move. But heaven does not move at human fingertips. It moves according to the heart of God. And you, if you walk that path of reduction, will fall into the hardest condition to recognize. You will think you are intimate with me, while in truth, you are only intimate with your own wishes. Look at those who have matured in faith. They do not speak much about techniques of prayer. They live by relationship with me. They do not demand that I answer immediately. They remain steadfast until I decide. They do not treat prayer as a mechanism, forcing my reply, but as the place where the soul melts in my presence. They understand what the world quickly forgets. I am the God of freedom, and my love is never coerced into compliance. My child, when you treat me as a response to a signal, you lose the ability to hear me in silence. Then what you attend to is not me, but the echo of your own constantly shifting desires. You will no longer discern what is my voice and what is the reverberation of ambition, and you will deceive yourself, thinking every inner stirring comes from the Holy Spirit, when often it is only emotion inflated by expectation. But I, the one who sees through every thought within you, do not want you to remain in that misunderstanding. I want you to grow. I want you to know that true faith is strong enough to walk through days without miracles, strong enough to stand when prayer has not yet been answered, strong enough to love me even when you hold nothing in your hands. That is the faith the saints lived, the faith I call gold, refined by fire. Think of it, if faith is only a tool to obtain what you want, where is there room to die to yourself? Where is there room for conversion? Where is there room for me to shape you in silence? I do not want you to lose the simplicity of heart. I do not want you to turn the sacred into a form of control. I do not want you to lose the greatest gift. I have given you the ability to enter a real relationship with me, a relationship of which every miracle is only the fruit, not the goal. Therefore today, I say this to you, let faith return to being breath, to being a living stream, to being the bond between you and me. Do not turn it into a procedure. Do not turn me into an object for you to manipulate. And do not turn prayer into a code. When you set aside the formulas, when you stand before me with an honest heart, when you can say, "Forgive me, for I sought methods and forgot to seek the Lord," that is when I can do the greatest thing, not an outward miracle, but the inward miracle within you. My child, I do not despise your asking for grace. I do not reproach your longings. I know your needs before you speak them. But what I want you to understand is, this faith does not grow through mechanical repetition, but through self-offering. Love does not blossom from method, but from truly staying close to me. And miracles do not endure if they do not spring from the deep transformation of the soul. My child, there are times I watch people step before my throne, and my heart grows heavy. Not because they come to ask for grace. I always invite my children to come with their real needs, but because many come with eyes that do not look at me, hearts that do not turn toward me. Everything in them is fixed on numbers, on debts, on financial doors they expect me to fling open at once. When they say, "I seek God," what they truly seek is a short-term escape for an emptying wallet, a shaky job, a tangled heart. In that moment, I am no longer Father, but am subtly turned into a kind of supernatural welfare fund. And my child, that is what dries a soul out faster than any hardship. I did not come to be a financial advisor. I came to be a father, not to patch up every small incident, but to renew your whole life. That is why my son said, "A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Luke 1:2-1:5. A reminder people today often hear, but rarely let sink into the heart. In the eyes of many, God is shrunk into a key that opens a treasure vault. What they share with one another revolves only around stories of money arriving unexpectedly, debts being erased, new opportunities appearing, accounts surging, profit doors swinging open. They speak of me not through stories of conversion, of inner healing, of returning to me, but through breakthrough scripts in finances. I listen, and I see they are not wrong to believe I can touch the material. I fed my people in the wilderness. I gave manna. I made a way through the sea. I have the power to do all things. But, my child, I grieve because what they treat as the center is not what I call the center. When they remember me only to demand disbursement, they forget the most precious thing. I long to give a new heart. Many come to me with the sighs of the needy, yet deep down, they do not seek me to be upheld, but to be rescued. They want me as a crisis management tool instead of the Lord of their lives. You can see this easily when I grant what they expect. They say I am near, but when I am silent, they question my love. My child, true love cannot be measured by whether money comes or not, whether opportunities open or close, whether income rises or falls. If you only feel my presence when everything goes smoothly, then you are trusting circumstances, not yet trusting me. When I look at the stream of people who come with trembling voices, afraid of losing the chance to become wealthy, I see a subtle darkness creeping in. They no longer rejoice in hearing my word, but only in hearing promises of luck. They are no longer eager to draw near to me, but when they hear fortune flowing in, their eyes light up. That is the moment faith no longer aims toward the kingdom of heaven, but toward earthly benefits dressed in spiritual clothing. I long to tell them, if your goal in coming to me is only temporary prosperity, then you are trading gold for copper, trading eternal joy for a fragment of joy that quickly fades. You will find yourself empty the moment outward miracles stop repeating. My child, some say, God wants me to be rich, but I tell you I want you to be free. If wealth makes your soul heavy, it is no longer a blessing, If money becomes the measure of my love for you, you have lost the simple gaze I once gave to little children. And if you believe being rich or poor reveals your place in my heart, you have fallen into the most subtle trap of this age. Remember what my son taught: blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:3. Blessedness is not in possessions, but in refusing to let possessions possess you. I taught you this long ago. Yet in these days, people prefer sweeter words, promises of breaking limits, stories that inflame the emotions of success, and they forget that Jesus did not preach a gospel of promotion and wealth, but the gospel of conversion. I see many hearts beginning to measure my love with numbers. Do you see the sorrow in that, when you believe the one with more money is loved by me more? You do not only wound yourself, you wound my true image. I love the rich, but I also love the poor. I uphold the successful, but I also walk beside the one who has failed. My love is not distributed by income or status. Human beings may do that. I never will. If you let money tell you your worth before me, you will always feel lacking, even if you owned the whole world. And this too, my child, when you turn me into a tool to manage your emotions, you will never find real peace. Some come to me not to seek light, but to seek comfort. They want me to soothe fear, heal anxiety, extinguish unrest immediately, as though I must ensure they never pass through dark places. But my child, true peace does not come from me clearing away every hardship. It comes from you knowing I am still there even while you tremble. Peace does not come from changing feelings, but from being rooted in me. That is why my son said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives." John 1:4-7. The world gives peace by conditions. I give peace by presence. If I solved every crisis of yours at once, you would never grow. What you need is not a life without upheaval, but a soul that can stand firm in upheaval. What you need is not a full wallet, but a heart free from dependence on money. What you need is not constant emotional highs, but maturity that does not collapse when emotions fall. I do not promise that following me will always be convenient. I promise that following me, you will always have me, and you will never find me if you seek only gifts. Let me say this to you as a tender word between father and child. I want you to come to me not because you lack, but because you belong to me. I want you to ask not because you panic, but because you trust. I want you to seek the kingdom of heaven first, not because I need it, but because only then will you truly be free from the world's grip. My child, if today you are wrestling with financial or emotional hardships, do not think I am far from you. I know every drop of sweat that falls, every sleepless night, but I will not let you trade your soul for a miracle that quickly fades. I can open doors. I can erase debts. I can shift your circumstances, but I will only do so if it draws you nearer to me, not farther. If your rising in material things weakens you spiritually, I will slow down because I love you. So today, I invite you to look again. Are you seeking me? Or only seeking security? Do you love me? Or only love what I can do for you? Are you following my son? Or only following success stories dressed up as faith? If you dare to answer honestly, you will see what many avoid. Faith is not a lever to lift you higher, but a road that makes you more like Jesus wherever you are. Whatever you have, or do not have, I say this to you as a gentle yet solemn call. Let me be Lord, not a tool. Let me be the source of life, not a source of capital. And when you seek me first, all other things will come in a healthy way at the right time, in the right measure, for the right purpose. I will not let you lack what your soul needs. And the most beautiful thing is this: when you place me above all, you will realize that what once felt like lack no longer has the power to shake you. For then, you belong to me, and I have become the greatest treasure of your life. My child, I see the weariness in your soul as you face pressures, failures, unfinished pieces in life. But there is something more dangerous than suffering. It is the moment you begin to believe everything is being pulled by darkness, that your life is merely a file being monitored by unseen forces, that every closed door is the devil blocking your way. The truth is that spiritual battle is real, and I never deny it. But when you attribute every hardship to evil, you quietly lose the ability to look at yourself. You miss what I want you to learn in the trial, and you fall into an illusion that tells you you are blameless, only a victim, with no responsibility in your own story. My child, that is the subtlest kind of bondage darkness loves to use, because it makes you stop wanting to change. I want you to remember my words spoken through St. James. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. James 1:1-3-14. Do you see, I do not say this to accuse you, but to free you from the thought that everything you endure comes from the outside. Some attacks truly come from darkness, but some fractures come from unwise choices, from delayed change, from compromising with what is wrong. When you place all blame on invisible forces, you will no longer see what needs healing, what needs correction, what needs conversion, and you will remain standing in one place. Even while your mouth keeps declaring that you are fighting, I see many people, when they fail, immediately say, the devil ruined it. When relationships break, they say, it's a curse. When finances get tight, they say, I'm under attack. But they do not ask whether there has been unfaithfulness in managing money, a lack of wisdom in choosing people, a lack of sobriety in decision-making, a lack of prayer and discernment. When you do not dare to face your own responsibility, you will live in an illusion that your life is being attacked from every direction, and you lose the ability to recognize my hand teaching you through those very events. My child, I want you to understand this. Taking responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. When you dare to face the truth, you no longer have to live in fear. You no longer have to keep looking over your shoulder to see what force is closing in. You no longer have to run from yourself. I want you to be strong enough to say, Lord, this happened because I lacked wisdom. In that very confession, I can begin to heal you. But when you only say, the devil caused it, you close the door to the work of renewal I long to do in you. Evil delights most when you believe it is stronger than your freedom. When you think everything in your life is controlled by it, you lose your right to choose, your right to rise again, your right to change, your right to say no. Darkness wants you to believe it decides your path, because then you will no longer remember that I have placed within you the power to step into the light. Hear this clearly: no power, no curse, no past can bind a soul that knows how to return to me. You are not a victim, you are one I have set free. You are not prey, you are one I cover. I have said, no one will snatch them out of my hand. JN 1028. If you live like someone under threat, you are denying my very word of protection. There are people who live their whole lives in a defensive posture, always thinking some unseen force is lurking. They forget that when I am with them, the enemy cannot touch their soul unless they open the door. But fear is what opens the door. The very habit of constantly thinking they are under attack steals their peace, and the habit of blaming darkness makes them overlook the warnings I send through the natural consequences of unwise choices. If you spend money carelessly, you will be in debt, not because a demon sabotaged you, but because you must learn stewardship again. If you keep choosing the wrong people, you will be heartbroken, not because of a curse, but because you need discernment and a deeper awareness of your worth. If you live carelessly in the spiritual life, your inner life will grow dry, not because something was stolen from you, but because you have not nourished it by meeting with me each day. I say this to you in love, not in reproach. You must learn to distinguish between real spiritual battle and the consequences of immaturity. Real battle exists, and when you face it, I will fight with you. But the consequences of your choices are what you must look at honestly so you can grow. If you label everything as darkness, you will no longer learn wisdom, no longer examine yourself, no longer repent, and you will keep circling in the same exhausting loop until your soul grows weary. I want you to know this as well. I do not condemn you for being weak. I am only concerned when you refuse to look at your own weakness. A mature soul is not a soul that never meets darkness, but a soul that knows how to rise after falling. No blaming, no running, no hiding behind the identity of a victim. You must let me lead you out of the hidden corners within, and I can only do that when you allow me to shine light into the very places you most often conceal. My child, there are people who prefer to think of themselves as victims because it means they do not have to take responsibility. But the truth is, when you refuse responsibility, you also refuse the power to change. You will wait for a miracle to fix what you could have changed long ago. You will sit still, expecting a supernatural reversal, while I am inviting you to stand up and take small but real steps. Sometimes the miracle is not a door opening by itself, but your decision to walk in my will even while the door still seems closed. A miracle is not always something that happens outside of you. Often the miracle is that you allow me to change you. So today I say this to you: stop hiding in the garment of victimhood. Do not let darkness whisper that it matters more than it truly does. Do not let failures blur the truth that I am shaping you. You will never grow if you always believe you are being hunted. You will mature when you learn to stand in the light and say, Lord, show me what I need to change. When you speak like that, darkness will retreat, because it knows you have stepped onto the ground of truth, and truth, once lit, cannot be extinguished by any power. You are not as weak as you think. You are not as abandoned as you fear. You have not been handed over to any force. I am here, and I am teaching you what the mature in faith must learn to resist evil, and also to repent and be transformed. When you hold both together, you will not live in fear, and you will not live in illusion. You will live in freedom, and I want to give you that freedom. My child, I see the unrest in your heart when you hear urgent, pressing voices. Only a few are chosen. If you don't act now, the door will close. The blessing will pass to someone else if you delay. Those words do not come from my Holy Spirit, for my Spirit does not sow fear, but brings freedom. I have spoken. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom too. Cor 3:1-7. But whoever speaks to you in the language of pressure does not give you freedom. They give you burdens. I see this, and my heart grieves because many of my little ones are being pushed into a kind of fear dressed up in spiritual clothing. The fear of missing a miracle, what people call spiritual FOMO, is subtle, yet extremely common. People fear that if they do not immediately do what is demanded, they will lose the chance for their life to change. But, my child, I am not like an investment market where you must catch the right timing. I am not a price chart that rises and falls for you to track. My grace does not open and shut unpredictably like the opportunities of this world. If you believe, I will only bless you if you comment at the right moment, like at the right hour, share at the right cue. You have unintentionally reduced God to a social media algorithm, and your soul forgets that I am the one who is the same yesterday and today and forever. My child, what I see as most dangerous is not that you follow those calls, but that they create in you an artificial sense of lack. When they say, Only those who stay until the very end will be chosen. They plant the idea that I divide my love according to engagement. When they say, "If you leave now, the blessing will go to someone else," they make you think I determine grace based on your physical presence. When they say, "Heaven's gate is about to close," they make you imagine I operate by a secret timetable held by special groups. But my child, I want you to understand with all my gentleness, my love does not come through pressure. My invitation is never coercive, and my salvation does not depend on whether you manage to press a button or follow a sequence correctly. Some people use panic and fear to push others into doing what they want. They speak with trembling urgency. They create an atmosphere of emergency. They paint an image of a crowd being left behind only to make the listener feel that if they do not do what is demanded, they lack faith. But, my child, human techniques cannot replace my call. My call never comes with pressure, because I want you to come in freedom. When I called Moses, I did not say, "If you don't answer immediately, the chance will be lost." When my son called the disciples, he did not say, "If you don't drop your nets within 3 seconds, I will choose someone else." When I knocked at the heart of the rich man, I did not say, "If you don't decide right now, my plan will pass to someone else." I do not manipulate, I invite. But people wanting attention, wanting crowds, wanting others to feel dependent, create urgent doors. They pretend they are relaying what I have spoken, but in truth they use your fear to get what they desire. Be careful about this. Any message that makes you panic instead of giving you peace, that makes you rush instead of discern, that makes you feel driven instead of free, that message does not come from me. My son taught my sheep, hear my voice, JN 1027. And my voice, my child, is gentle. It leads you to restful waters, not a shove that makes you sprint in terror of missing a blessing. When the fear of missing out is inflated, people begin to act not from faith, but from psychological pressure. They comment not because they want to confess, but because they fear being left off the list of the blessed. They press like not because they have been touched, but because they think that action will make heaven take note. They share not because they want to spread light, but because they have been told that if they do not share, they are refusing a miracle. Do you see what is happening so subtly? Their faith no longer flows from love, but from fear. And faith, born of fear, my child, is not faith. I did not create you to live chasing pressure. I created you to walk in the freedom of the children of God. When you hear words that frighten you, "God only blesses those who do this," immediately remember that this contradicts my very character. I am more patient than you think. I am more generous than you imagine. I wait for you longer than any deadline people impose. I do not close the door because you were late by 1 minute. I do not transfer my plan to someone else because you did not press a button in time. You are not living under the world's countdown clock. You are living in my love, and that love is not limited by human techniques. What grieves me most is when you begin to confuse my voice with the voices of manipulators. You start to believe that I dispense grace according to online engagement. You think salvation must be secured with outward acts, as though a deposit were required. You begin to fear that I will turn away if you do not respond quickly enough. My child, wake up. That is not the Father's voice. That is not the Son's light. That is not the Holy Spirit's leading. I want you to learn discernment. I want you to have ears keen enough to recognize which voice is mine and which voice belongs to fear. I want you to know this. If a message makes you feel you must act immediately or be cast aside, that message is not from me. Grace does not come through pressure. Grace comes through love. You do not need to chase after my affection. I loved you before you ever knew how to run. You do not need to perform a symbolic act to keep your place in my heart. My heart is never closed to you. You do not need to compete for my attention. I have been attentive to you since before you were formed. When you grasp this, you will understand the difference between a true call and a call diluted by human mixture. A true call leads you into peace, even when it invites you to great change. A true call leads you into light, even when it exposes what you have been avoiding. A true call leads you into freedom, even when you must release what you cling to. My true call does not drive you into frantic motion, it invites you to take your next step. My child, do not let the fear of missing out cause you to miss what matters most, me. You do not lose blessing because you were slow to comply with human demands. You lose blessing only when you refuse to let me lead you. If you remain calm, you will hear my voice more clearly. If you do not panic, you will recognize where the true light is. And if you choose freedom instead of fear, you will walk in the right direction. I want you to remember this with all my gentleness. There is no door I shut in haste. There is no opportunity I take back while you are still trying to understand. There is no plan I hand over to someone else because you lost focus for a second. I am the God of patience, not of pressure. I am the God of freedom, not of manipulation. I am the God of truth, not of emotional exaggeration. And if you remain in this truth, you will never be carried away by threats dressed in spiritual clothing. Beloved child, I want you to come to me not with the fear of missing blessing, but with the desire to be near me. I want you to trust that when I call, you will recognize the Father's voice at once, and you will walk forward not because you are forced, but because you love. And when you walk like that, no power can make you tremble. No preaching can throw you into confusion. No pressure can lead you astray. You will know that you belong to me, and I will lead you in freedom, as I promised from everlasting. My child, I see that in this age there are many voices preaching about me. Yet not every voice leads you nearer to the cross of my Son. There are messages that revolve only around explosive experiences, shivers, burning sensations, strange signs like flashes of light, pressure, movements within the body. People tell one another about dramatic turnarounds in a matter of hours, dizzying shifts in work, finances, reputation, health. They proclaim these as certain proof that I am at work. But, my child, if I were present only in those eruptive moments, what of the long silent days? What of the dry seasons? What of the years when a soul can cling to me only by whispering in the dark? Lord, I still believe, if you recognize me only in the lightning, you will miss me in ordinary days where I often work the deepest. I know how easily your heart is drawn to what feels intense. You want to see, to feel, to touch. You want tangible evidence that I am there. I do not blame you, for I understand your weakness. Even Thomas wanted to place his hand into my son's wounds before he would believe. Yet my son said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed," John 20:29. And that word, my child, was not spoken to cast out the weak, but to lift you beyond the need to depend on signs. For if you believe only when you feel, then what you believe is not me, but your emotions. When emotions drop, faith falls with them. When the experience settles, you become anxious again, and so you will move from one gathering to another, from one wave of miracles to the next, while inside, your soul still has not learned the art of abiding in me when you can no longer feel anything. My child, have you noticed that in many of these testimonies, the cross is almost absent? People speak much of breaking curses, shattering limits, opening doors of opportunity. changing one's fate, but they speak little of sacrifice, of self-denial, of choosing faithfulness to me when it costs them. People eagerly run after prayer meetings drenched in emotion, but few speak of quiet mornings opening scripture when there is no inspiration at all. People love to recount the moments of being touched, yet share little about the long days of feeling nothing and still kneeling. But, my child, it is precisely those emotionless days where faith is refined. It is precisely the hours when you see nothing yet still say, "Lord, I am here," that are an offering more pleasing to me than any fleeting surge of sensation. Remember this, my son worked many miracles. But the summit of his life was not the days when crowds acclaimed him. It was the day he was lifted on the cross in an almost total silence of heaven and earth. To the eyes of the world, it looked like failure, collapse, an ending. But to me, it was victory. It was precisely when my son was raised up, when there was no outward form of glory, no eruption of signs, no throngs pressing in for favors, that salvation was opened. Do you see? If you judge my presence only by what is loud, you will not recognize me in weakness, in defeat, in loss, in the places where there is nothing to boast about. Yet I love to be there, where you stand completely bare before me. My son spoke a very clear word that many here yet do not want to repeat. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Luke 9:23. He did not say, if anyone would follow me, let him demand to see many miracles. Nor did he say, if anyone would follow me, let him chase constant fiery experiences. He said, take up his cross daily, meaning there are burdens that do not vanish at once, wounds that require time to heal, limitations you must learn to live with in my light. I do not always remove all your pain. Often, I choose to walk with you through it. I do not always open doors immediately. Often, I allow you to wait so your heart can be refined. I do not always give you the sensation of being carried. Often, I teach you how to walk faithfully on the ground, day by day. My child, do not let anyone deceive you with a Christianity without the cross. A faith that speaks only of victory and never of sacrifice is a distorted faith. A faith that wants glory but refuses the narrow road is not a faith that truly follows Jesus. Many of my saints lived entire lives without any spectacular breakthrough as the world defines it. They had no sensational stories to tell, but they had long days of repeating the same act of love, the same prayer, the same faithfulness in small duties. They did not shake the world with noisy miracles, but they moved my heart with quiet perseverance. Whom do you think I love more, the one who astonishes for a few hours, or the one who remains faithful for many years? If you love miracles but refuse the cross, you will gradually stop wanting Christ himself and will want only his supernatural services. You will come to me not as a child seeking the Father, but as a customer looking for a premium spiritual experience package. You will measure your spiritual life by how many times you feel the fire, rather than by how many times you forgive when wounded. Rise again when you fall. Remain faithful when no one is watching. You will compare yourself to others by the strange things they recount, forgetting that there is something greater than any miracle, a heart that knows how to love to the end, even at a cost, even without applause. I do not hate miracles. I am the one who works miracles. I still heal, still deliver, still intervene in situations that seem without escape. But it grieves me when people stop there and refuse to step further into the mystery of the cross. Miracles are signs, not the destination. Miracles are a doorway that opens into conversion, not a stage for boasting about what one has experienced. If, after all you have seen, you still do not become more like my son, then every sign has only passed like lightning across the sky, bright for a moment, then gone, leaving the darkness just as it was. My child, let me ask you this. What do you want more? A life full of powerful yet shallow experiences? Or a life that may look ordinary yet is rooted deeply in me? Will you accept that sometimes I will not let you feel, so you can learn to love me not for benefits, not for emotion, but because I am who I am? Will you allow me to lead you into dry seasons, so you will know your faith does not depend on atmosphere or circumstance, but on a deep yes planted within your heart? If you dare, you will discover a kind of peace that no noisy experience could ever give you. I know you are afraid of silence. You fear the days of prayer when nothing seems to happen. You fear the years of quiet service that no one notices. You fear the small sacrifices that never get told on social media. But, my child, it is precisely in those places that I am very near. I stand beside the mother who rises early to care for her children and still whispers, Lord, I offer this new day to you. I walk with the faithful Father who works each day with integrity, even when no one rewards him. I listen to the young who dare to say no to temptation, even when no one applauds. These things may not shake the atmosphere around you, but they shake the kingdom of heaven. For wherever there is self-giving love, there I am. Learn to see me in slow footsteps, not only in spectacular leaps. Learn to count the times you still remain with me, even when you are weary, rather than only counting the times you feel the power. Learn to treasure the tears of repentance in the secret place more than emotional moments in front of many. Learn to recognize that when you forgive, when you apologize, when you begin again, when you keep faithful to a small duty, when you accept a loss in order to keep your heart upright, each of these is a quiet miracle I am working within you. My beloved child, I did not come to sell you strange experiences. I came to give you myself. I did not come to turn your life into a chain of dramatic plot twists. I came to walk with you through every season of life, even the stretches where no one claps. If today you no longer feel me as you once did, do not rush to conclude that I am no longer at work. Sometimes, when you see nothing, that is when I am working most deeply. Like a seed lying still in the soil, no one sees it split open. Yet it is there that life begins. Therefore I invite you, seek me at the cross before you seek me in miracles. Love me in ordinary days before you ask me for extraordinary things. Ask me for the grace of faithfulness before you ask me for standout experiences. And remember, my child, in the end, what I will look at is not the number of signs you have witnessed, but how much your heart has become like the heart of my Son. If you allow me to lead you on that path, then even if your life outwardly is not loud, in my eyes you will have lived a radiant life. How many times have you lifted your eyes and sighed to me, Lord, how long will this go on? How much longer must I wait before everything changes? And through many seasons, I let you pass through silence like a long lesson, so that your heart would no longer crave only a sudden, lightning-fast turnaround, but would learn to cling to me in each ordinary beat of the day. Today, as you hold those worries again and read these lines, I answer you not with a timeline, but with a truth. Up to this moment, I am still who I am, and right now is my hour in your life. You imagine the end of waiting as the day every door in this world swings open all at once. But I tell you that the moment weary longing ends is the moment you recognize my presence in the present, and you stop waiting for a perfect miracle before you dare to believe I love you. I do not change. I am still the one who made a few loaves feed a multitude desperate with hunger, still the one who brought water from a hard rock in the wilderness, still the one who split the deep sea so my people walked through danger, still the one who sends help by paths the human eye could never imagine. These stories are not old fairy tales told for entertainment. They are the footprints of a heart that never abandons its children, even when they are weak, stubborn, and lost. I remind you not to stir you into chasing new spectacles, but so you may know that I alone am the firm foundation, and you may loosen your grip on emotions and on outward brilliance, even now, in this moment that seems ordinary. As your eyes move across each word, I am not standing far away as a spectator. I am bending low over your life, quietly breathing into you, a fresh breath, not an anointing that makes you forget the cross, but a current of life that makes your faith grow, widen, mature, able to embrace both miracles and long days when nothing appears to happen. You open your hands and see that you have only a few small things, a little money, a calling not yet fulfilled, efforts that seem unseen, a few dreams frayed at the edges. You look down and say, "What good is this? I have nothing worth offering, nothing big enough to change my life." Yet in what you call small and ordinary, I see a seed, one that does not match the age's standards of success, but carries within it the capacity to become shade for you and for those to whom you are sent. You see only the husk. I see the green tree in the season of fruit. You see limitation. I see what I can do when you allow me to step in, not with a few symbolic gestures, but with real surrender. I do not claim the seed is already large, and I do not promise that you will sow in the morning and harvest by evening. But I tell you, my breath is touching it. I am loosening your fear of loss so you dare to sow. I am quieting your doubt so you dare to persevere. I am softening your calculating gaze so you can notice what I am doing in hidden places. The greatest miracle is not the seed becoming a tree in a moment, but you not throwing it away along the road. Even while the sky is still dark and the rain has not yet come, the thing you nearly let go of, the plan you thought God had forgotten, the dream you once believed was born from my invitation, and later you grew weary and wanted to end. I have seen every time you sat, staring at it like a wasteland. Let it go. It must not be God's will. You told yourself not because you had truly discerned it, but because you were exhausted from waiting without results. You fear that if you continue, you will be disappointed again. You think retreating to safety will protect you from being hurt one more time. But, my child, somewhere in the middle of those calculations, I am still quietly holding it up like a young shoot beaten down by a storm while its roots have not yet been torn from the ground. There are projects, ministries, paths I place in your heart not so you can sit at ease, but so you can walk with me into a journey of maturity. I do not lay my hand on programs that serve the ego. I lay my hand on what is joined to my loving intention for you and for others. Perhaps I will not let it grow exactly according to the blueprint you first drew. Perhaps I will prune, reshape, redirect, cut away what is heavy so it becomes lighter, truer, more aligned with my will. But because I touch it, it will not die. What looks like ruin, if you let me remake it, will become a testimony not of your talent, but of my patience and my gentle power. And the door you stopped raising your hand to knock on it may be a relationship you once begged me to rescue and then gave up on. A door of service you felt unworthy to enter. A path you believed had closed forever because your life had missed the timing. You knocked with all your hope until the day you ran out of strength and whispered, "Enough, maybe God doesn't want me to step in." Since then, each time you remember it, you taste bitterness. And to avoid the pain, you try not to think of it again. But I have not forgotten. Sometimes I am the one who tells you to pause, because you were knocking more with ambition than with faith. Sometimes I let the door stay silent so you can realize that what lies behind it is not the whole meaning of your life. But when I tell you now that I am opening a door, it does not mean I will always open the very gate you once pictured. At times I will close the old door completely and show you another entrance, less grand than you hoped, yet more peaceful for your soul. I open the way not to satisfy every script you wrote, but to lead you to what I have prepared. If you cling tightly to the old picture, you will think I am doing nothing, but if you let me lead, you will discover that some new doors have been standing ajar for a long time, and you simply did not notice. My child, the day the little becomes great, in my eyes often does not match the resounding success the world celebrates. In the kingdom of heaven, little becomes great when small choices, repeated in faithfulness, form a steadfast life. A sincere apology after years of pride, that is a miracle. The moment you firmly stop before temptation, even if only you and I know that is a miracle. The decision to keep loving the one who hurt you because I loved you first, that is a miracle. In all these things, I am turning your ordinary acts into a witness. Heaven treasures. You may never tell these moments as a dramatic story from a pulpit, yet the angels bow low before them, because they see clearly the real battle being fought within your heart. What once seemed impossible, forgiving, beginning again, breaking sinful habits, letting go of a toxic relationship, believing you are still loved after many failures. All of these, in my eyes, are your own Red Seas that you must cross. You look and say, I can't make it. I tried. I lost. But I, the one who opened a dry path through the heart of the waters. Do not lose patience with your discouragement. I do not stand on the far shore shouting, hurry up and cross. I step down beside you, take your hand, and walk one step at a time, even as you tremble, even as the waters still roar on both sides. There may not be a spectacular moment when you cry out, everything changed overnight, but rather seasons, stages, the slow peeling away of old layers from your soul. Yet when you look back, you will understand it was there that the impossible became possible, not because you were strong, but because you let me lead. Today, when I tell you that the waiting is ending, it is not a promise that you will never have to wait again. It is an end to the kind of passive, bitter waiting, the kind that keeps you sitting still, resenting me. I am ending a season in which you stood outside your own life with the excuse, waiting for God to do something, so that I may lead you into a new season, a season where you walk with me, even if your steps are still slow, still trembling, still unable to see the whole road. What I place upon you is not some anointing that makes you impulsively do irrational things and then blame the Spirit, but a grace that helps you recognize the sacred worth of very ordinary acts, working honestly, caring for your family, living with integrity, praying steadily, forgiving faithfully, serving quietly where no one sees. When you allow me to seep into these things, your life, though it seems small, will send out circles of influence you yourself could never imagine. Because wherever there is true love, there I am present. You once wanted a miracle that would let you leap over every hard step. Today I give you a different kind of miracle, the courage to walk through each step to the end. You grew weary waiting for a single breakthrough day to prove that I am Lord. Today, I invite you to become a testimony through your slow but steadfast life. You asked me to change your circumstances so you would not have to change. Today, I touch your heart so that you begin to be transformed from within. That is real, supernatural increase, not the swelling of what the eyes can see, but the growing of a heart that knows how to love, to endure, to give, to remain. And one day, when you share me with someone, you will not only speak of doors that open suddenly, but also of the years you learned to lift the cross onto your shoulders and still smile, because you knew I was walking beside you. Then your witness will no longer be a chain of impressive events, but the fragrance of a life that has been kneaded and shaped in my hands. So, my child, Do not despise the small seed I have placed in your hand. Do not rush to conclude that what I have kindled within you has died simply because it does not grow at the world's pace. Do not assume that a door I have closed is closed forever simply because it did not open to your angry knocking. Let today become a new now between you and me. Now you choose to trust me, even when there are no spectacular effects. Now you consent for the miracle to happen within, before you search for it outside. Now you stop asking how much longer in resentment, and begin asking, Lord, in this moment, what are you teaching me? When you step into this kind of increase, you will discover that many things you thought were endings are only beginnings. Many things you thought were shattered become the very materials I use to build what is new. And above all, you will realize that the most precious gift I give you is not a string of miracles to display, but me, who steadfastly walks beside you. From the bustling days to the nights when no one even knows your name, until your faith grows large enough to understand that the cross and miracles are not opposites, but intertwined in one single mystery, the mystery of my love for you, now and forever. My child, when I speak to you about the cross, about a quietly faithful life, I am not merely asking you to sit still and endure. I am quietly preparing within you a new space, so that you learn how to walk in a concrete, simple, and yet profound way. I do not do everything in your place. I also wait for your cooperation. Like a child who dares to take small steps and open the heart for grace to enter. There are doors I have already prepared, but if there is no room within you, what I want to give will have nowhere to rest. Therefore today I tell you we will clean house together, not with elaborate rituals, but with very ordinary actions that, if you do them with me, will become the place where your soul is gently untangled. First, I want you to face honestly what you have been trying to hide, not from the world, but from yourself and from me. Is there an obsession you have not dared to name, a thing that tightens your chest, a dark thought that keeps hiding at the bottom of your heart, a cruel conclusion whispering that you are not enough, that you will never change, that you will fail again as before? Many times you tried to brush it off like dust, but precisely because you never faced it, it clung even tighter. I do not want you to let it keep hiding in the shadows. Today I invite you to do something very concrete. Take a sheet of paper, take a pen, and instead of only thinking it in your head, write it down in words clearly. Honestly, everything that makes you afraid. No need for flowery language. No need to make it sound good. Simply write what you truly carry inside, what you fear losing, what you dread facing, what you believe you could not survive if it happened. As you write, do not rush to judge yourself. Do not say this is so stupid, and do not sugarcoat it. Because here I am not looking for perfection, I am looking for truth. I am there beside you as you place each stroke on the page. I see every trembling line, and I do not despise you for being afraid. I only ache because you have carried it alone for far too long. When you have finished writing, I do not want you to fold that paper and tuck it away somewhere like one more secret. I want you to make an outward gesture that reflects what is happening inwardly. Choose a safe place, a bowl, a corner of the sink where you can burn that paper without endangering yourself or anyone else. Do not rush. Do not do it as a just-to-see experiment, but do it slowly, calmly, with the awareness that you are bringing what you fear into my light. Before you burn it, look straight at those lines one last time and say to me, Lord, this is what I have been avoiding. This is what I have not dared to tell anyone. But today I do not want to hide it from you anymore. Then light it carefully, and when the paper begins to wrinkle, curl, and burn away, do not look as if you are merely doing a ritual, but let it become a declaration from the depths of your soul You are no longer allowing that fear to define you. You may speak aloud or whisper. As long as it is from the heart, from now on, I will not live under your tyranny anymore. I will no longer agree with the story you planted in my mind. I do not belong to the dark scenarios you paint for me. I belong to God, my Father. My identity is not decided by fear, but by His promise over my life. What He has spoken over this life, no trembling voice can erase, not because the paper burns and fear vanishes like magic, my child, but because in that moment you did what you never dared before you rose up within. You faced it. You set that fear before me and refused to let it rule you. The outward act is only a sign of the inward movement, and it is that movement that becomes the place where I can work more deeply with you. After the ashes cool, dispose of them neatly, but do not quickly discard that moment from your memory. I want you to remember that you had a day when you dared to say enough to what once paralyzed you. From then on, each time the old voice returns to whisper in your ear, you do not need to argue with it at length. You only need to remember the image of that paper burning before you and remind yourself within, I have handed this to the Lord. I am not returning to the old chains. You will find that, perhaps not instantly, but little by little, the grip of fear will loosen, no longer tightening around your heart as before, not because you have become stronger, but because you have allowed me to stand with you. But I will not stop there. I know that much pain in your heart does not come only from what you imagine, but also from broken connections, from faces that flicker in your memory whenever you are alone in silence. There is someone whose image has often surfaced in your thoughts, yet each time you brush it away. That's awkward. We haven't talked in so long, messaging now would be sudden. They don't need me. You think these thoughts are random, but I tell you sometimes that is my gentle whisper, which you have ignored because you feared being misunderstood, feared rejection. Today I want you to trust that it is not accidental. That person is passing through a darkness you do not see. They are struggling to stay afloat. They are wondering whether anyone in this world truly remembers them. And I, who sees their silent tears, have brought their name to your heart because I want to use you as a small thread to pull them back from the edge. You do not need to compose a long message, and you do not need to explain why you suddenly reached out. You only need to be faithful to the gentle prompting within. Send them a line, a check-in, a simple sentence such as, "How have you been lately? I thought of you, and I'm praying that the Lord will keep you." You will be embarrassed. You will hesitate at the send button. You will hear the familiar murmurs in your head, "That's so silly. They're busy, who has time to read this? What if they don't reply?" But, my child, those voices do not come from me. I do not sow shame. I sow mercy. I do not sow calculation. I sow generosity. Do not let old awkwardness block the flow of grace. I want to reach their life through you. Remember, sometimes a single sincere question can become a lamp in a room of the soul that has gone dark. You do not need to know how they will respond. You only need to know that you obeyed a very quiet invitation. When you press send, you are not only doing it for them, you are also breaking a shell that has wrapped around your own heart. For so long, fear has made you shrink back, keeping you turned inward, circling within your safe zone, afraid to open the door to any connection. By choosing to reach out, if only through a line of text, you are telling yourself, I will not let fear control how I love others anymore. And I, who sees even the smallest movements within you, will use each such act to widen your capacity for love. You will be surprised to realize that sometimes a turning point in your spiritual life does not come from a dramatic prayer meeting, but from one time you dared to send a message that seemed meaningless. It may be that person will reply. It may be they stay silent. It may be they only read and leave it there. The outward result is not the most important thing. What matters is that you have cooperated with me. You have allowed me to use you as a small channel, carrying my presence to touch another heart. And here is the wonder: each time you become a blessing to someone, you yourself are opened to receive a deeper blessing. Not the loud kind of blessing, but a gentle peace, the awareness that your life is not sealed inside the self, but woven into the network of souls I am caring for. Do you see? Everything I invited you to do: write down the fear, burn it safely, reach out to the one I placed on your heart. None of it is a trick to pull miracles toward you. And it is not a system of do it right and get rewarded. I do not play a bargaining game with you. Those gestures are simply a way for your heart to truly walk in what your mouth has been confessing all along: that you do not want to live as a slave to fear, that you do not want to turn your back on those I have set within the orbit of your life, that you want to let my love pass through you in a tangible way. When you live like this, the greatest miracle is not that something spectacular happens outside, but that you are gradually transformed within, less clenched, less trembling, less self-absorbed, and more peace, more compassion, more freedom. I do not promise you that if you do these things, every burden will vanish immediately. Every knot will be untied overnight, because if I promised that, I would be falling back into the very formula I warned you against. But I assure you of this: no small step of obedience is ever meaningless. Not a single drop of sweat from facing your fear. Not a single awkward second when you text someone out of compassion is overlooked by me. I gather all those small things, I braid them into a new thread for your life, and little by little, you will realize you are no longer the same person, not because you did the exercise correctly, but because you remained in me, and I remained in you. So, child, do not be afraid of small actions. Do not wait for a special day with some intense emotion before you dare to begin. In this very ordinary day, in the simple room where you are sitting, with a sheet of paper and a phone in your hands, you can already answer my call. I am there, gentle yet steadfast, waiting for you to walk with me. Not as one chasing miracles, but as a child learning to love step by step. And as you live this way, the breakthroughs you once searched for outside will begin to sprout from within quietly, slowly, but real, firm, and lasting. Child, I want you to understand something very deep that many who follow me all their lives still fail to notice: the quiet choices, the steadfast tears, the moments you whisper, yes, in the midst of pain, do not only touch your present, they also silently rewrite the story of those who will come after you. You think you are only trying to cling to me so you do not collapse, but from my side, I see an entire line standing behind you: children, grandchildren, generations not yet born, breathing a new spiritual atmosphere because of the faithful steps you are taking today. What you think is merely getting through the day is becoming a seed that changes the spiritual climate of an entire family. You may not see it clearly, but I see it clearly each time you choose forgiveness instead of feeding resentment. Each time you close the door on sin, even as temptation rushes in. Each time you remain faithful in prayer, even when your heart feels cold. You are opening a new path across ground, hardened by many generations. Your small footsteps today are pressing down on old ruts. And when you are exhausted yet choose to take one more step, I am using that step to erase, little by little, the traces of dark roads that have stretched through your family for generations. Try to imagine it. There are things your ancestors repeated from one generation to the next, patterns of pessimistic thinking, habits of self-destruction, choices that chased darkness, distorted ways of loving everything, forming a heavy atmosphere over the whole lineage, until many in your home concluded, our family is just fated like this. They grew used to repeating tragedies, the father like the grandfather, the child like the father, the next generation repeating the previous one, only the names change. Not the destiny. But, child, when you let me intervene in your life, when you allow the cross of my Son to enter the deepest regions of your family's history, things do not have to continue the same way. Not because you discovered some spiritual secret, but because you let grace press into the very place where darkness assumed it held full authority. You do not need to shout that you are breaking the family line. The fact that you dare to live differently and dare to be honest. Dare to live in the light. Dare to put away habits your whole house calls normal already becomes a clean fracture in the invisible chain that is wrapped around generations. I see what your eyes can hardly recognize in the present. You think your children are simply born later, but in the spiritual realm, they are stepping into an atmosphere entirely different from what you grew up under. You matured beneath a sky filled with blame, fear, lack, comparison, words that planted in your heart the feeling that you were always missing something, always inferior, always wrong. You had to fight not to believe those voices. It took you many years to realize I am not like the voices of your childhood. The moment you allow me to heal those wounds, you are clearing a new space so your children can grow up under a lighter sky. They may still face difficulties, still carry wounds of their own, but they will not have to struggle with the same level of suffocation you once carried inside. What was warfare for you will become inheritance for them. What you had to win through tears, they will receive as something normal, perhaps never realizing what price their parents paid. I am not saying this so you feel proud or think of yourself as a spiritual hero, but so you know your weariness is not meaningless. Each time you kneel and it feels as though your prayer falls into emptiness, I still hear, and I'm using those words to redraw the horizon for your family's future. Each time you choose not to repeat the toxic phrases you once heard from those before you, you are cutting invisible cords that would have bound your descendants to old psychological patterns. Each time you refuse to live dishonestly, even when it costs you, you are sowing into your family's history a seed of truth that one day your children will reap as peace. I do not measure your life by the number of dazzling experiences, but by the depth of faithful decisions repeated again and again in silence. You have heard many speak of burdens passed down from generation to generation, scandals, breakdowns, addictions, violence, betrayal, sickness, debt, collapse. It is true, sin and wrong choices can leave long traces, not only on one person but on an entire branch of a family. But I do not want you to stop at seeing the shadow of the past. I want you to recognize the power of grace flowing through you right now. When you unite yourself with the cross of my Son, the old grooves, darkness carved into your family history, are no longer a one-way road. I can turn them into channels where new water can pour in. There are patterns of behavior that seem impossible to change: numbing pain with alcohol, with distorted relationships, with violence, with blaming everything on circumstances, yet they begin to lose their weight when you choose a different response. You do not curse when you are insulted. You choose silence or you choose kindness. You do not run to numbness to escape exhaustion. You come to me. You do not decide in haste to satisfy a craving. You pray and you wait. You do not take what is unjust to fill a gap. You accept lack and still keep your heart clean. Those seemingly small choices are overturning patterns that have repeated themselves in your family for a long time. Let me say this to you slowly. You are not required to live exactly as your ancestors lived. You are not required to hand to your children the burdens you received. I am here to place a new page in your hands. I do not erase history as though it never existed, but I give you the right to continue it in a different direction. In your household, people may have been used to thinking, we were born to suffer. No one in this line ever truly rises. Love in this house always ends up falling apart. The people here are always missing something. Those sentences have weighed on generations, keeping them under a low sky. But when you let me speak different words into your life, you are my beloved child. I am with you all your days. Nothing can separate you from my love. Little by little, you will realize the old words lose their power. You may still hear them sometimes, echoing as if from far away, but they will no longer be the final voice. The final voice over your family belongs to me, not to darkness, and not to human prejudgments. I also know your family carries very specific fears. The fear of repeating broken marriages like your parents or grandparents, the fear of slipping into dependency like a relative, the fear of falling into cycles of mental collapse, the fear of illnesses your whole house treats as pre-written. I do not come to soothe you with cheap promises that from now on everything will be easy and no one in your home will ever face problems again. I do not promise that no one in your line will get sick. No one will stumble. No one will lose their way. What I promise is this for each one who opens their heart. I will be there to turn what seems like a sentence into a place where grace can flow in. I break the lie that your family is destined to be this way. I cut off the crushing weight of "there's no way out." I shatter the invisible yoke that makes people believe they can only repeat the tragedies of those before them. I do not promise to remove every storm, but I promise a generation will learn to row differently, no longer steering by the reflex of fear, but steering by trust in me, my child. Sometimes you feel as though you are fighting alone, but you do not know that in the very midst of that battle, I am preparing a new starting point for those who will come after you. The children in your home may never fully know the nights you lay awake with worry, the times you wept because you feared you were not enough, the silent conversations between you and me in the kitchen, in the bathroom, on the road to work. Yet, in the sacred realm, those moments are not lost. They become like invisible bricks I use to build a new foundation for your family. Do you remember what my son said? Whoever is faithful in little things will also be faithful in great things. The little things you do, speaking a kind word instead of a poisonous one, choosing honesty instead of deceit, leading your children to the Word of God instead of surrendering them to a screen, apologizing when you have wounded a loved one. These I count, one by one, not to grade you, but to use them as the first capital for a new journey your children and grandchildren will one day inherit. This does not mean the next generation will automatically be holy simply because you have struggled. Each person still has their own freedom and must make real choices. I am not turning your bloodline into a line of flawless angels. But there will be one difference. Instead of having to begin on dry, barren ground as you did, they will set out from a place where at least some water is already flowing. Instead of having to shatter every thick wall as you did, they will walk into a house where many walls have already been taken down. Instead of having to fight to believe that I am not like the distorted examples they see in adults, they will more easily recognize my likeness in the face of their own parents. And that is what I am doing with you, even when you feel slow, weak, ordinary. So, my child, do not despise the repeating days, the tasks that seem small, the steps taken without any spotlight. Do not think only the moments when fire flares up can bring impact to your family. It is precisely when you persevere in following me in silence, precisely when you accept the cross in your small home, precisely when you choose forgiveness instead of retaliation, precisely when you keep praying for loved ones you think will never change. It is in these very things that I am quietly rewriting the story of your entire line. One day, when you look back, if not in this life, then in the light of the life to come, you will be astonished to see that the tears you thought fell in vain were in fact watering seeds you have not yet been able to see. And I will smile and say to you, my child, you did not walk only for yourself. You walked for all those who stand behind you. And I have remembered every step, my child. After all, I have just told you about miracles and the cross. I want to lead you a little farther deeper into a very subtle territory of faith today, when people take words themselves, spiritual declarations, hurried lines typed on a screen, and make them the center of their hope, as if repeating a few correct phrases is enough for every invisible chain to snap automatically. I see not a few who stand before crowds and say, "Every curse in the family line is being sent back to where it came from. Every chain left by previous generations is being broken. Just say it after me. Just rewrite this sentence. Just mark that you have received it, and heaven will immediately approve a new era for your life." Those words can sound bold and powerful, striking the quiet fear many carry about their family's dark past, about things hard to explain that cling across generations. But, my child, if you are not very clear-eyed, you can easily be pulled into a kind of belief where everything revolves around a few minutes of emotional climax and a few lines typed in haste, while the long road of conversion, the daily walk into the light, the quiet choices of honesty and love gets pushed to the side. I do not deny that there are wounds, patterns of sin, misaligned trajectories that seem to be passed down within families. From one generation to the next, I see children growing up in an atmosphere of psychological violence, lies, greed, unfaithfulness. I see them bearing marks they did not choose at the beginning. But, my child, I sent my only son precisely to enter histories like these, carrying the power to set free, not by a shouted slogan, but by the cross itself. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. Gal 3:1-3. This is not a technique, it is a mystery. The returning of darkness does not happen through a spell, screamed aloud or typed into a comment box. It happens when a person truly allows the cross to mark their life, when they accept to cut off the old ways through concrete decisions, not walking the old road again, not repeating patterns of injustice, not reproducing distorted ways of loving. The cross is the seal that destroys the power of invisible bonds, not phrases applauded as a universal key. I see not a few of my children being taught, "Repeat after me." I receive, I activate, I enter breakthrough, type it out, declare it. Because when you speak, heaven must move. It can sound as though I'm sitting above, waiting to see whether you say the formula correctly, press the right rhythm, and only then will I issue the order to open the door. But, my child, I do not operate like a technical system waiting for an input signal. Your words carry weight before me, not because they match a template someone invented, but because they rise from a heart that is truly turning back. I cherish clumsy but sincere prayers more than grand declarations born only from stirred-up emotion. I bend close to listen to a small cry in a closed room, the prayer of someone brave enough to weep over their own failures more than to loud, eager chants whose core is still merely a craving to escape suffering quickly, without change. It is true that in my word it is written, life and death are in the power of the tongue. What you speak is not meaningless. Words can soothe, uphold, heal. They can also destroy, wound, imprison. But the power of speech does not lie in whether you can assemble the spiritually trending phrases. It lies in whether your words honestly express what is happening in the depths of your heart. When you say, "I believe," but in truth you are only repeating what someone just told you, that word is still fragile. When you say, "I renounce the darkness," but afterward you still choose half-truths, that word is left hanging. But when you whisper to me, "I am tired of the old way of living, set me free," and then you begin to change each small decision, each relationship, each use of time and money, that word resounds in heaven more strongly than 100,000. I activate phrases typed in excitement. Life or death on your tongue is bound to your choice to speak truth. Live truth. Love truth. more than to your ability to memorize spiritual slogans. I know the calls to say it loudly. Type it out. Respond right now. Strike your need to do something. You feel less helpless when at least you can type a few words. Press a button. Speak a few phrases that sound strong. You think, at least I'm not standing still. But, my child, there is a form of standing still that is very dangerous when outwardly you make many motions. Yet inwardly, nothing truly moves. You type. You speak. You join the atmosphere, but if afterward you still live exactly as before, if you continue choosing what wounds yourself and others, if you keep placing miracles above letting me reshape your character, then you have only passed through a wave of emotion, not stepped onto the path of transformation. What I seek is not the trace you leave under a post, but the trace of me becoming clearer in your life. Remember, I do not forbid you to speak hopeful words about unexpected graces, about restoration, about good connections, about healing of the body, the heart, relationships. These are all gifts I can give, and have often given, to my children. But I do not want you to turn those blessings into a menu you order from with a few spoken lines. I do not want you to say, I receive multiplication. I receive a flood of financial blessing, while in your depths, you only want your life to turn the page quickly, without passing through the school of the cross. If you speak of restoration but are not willing to apologize, forgive, enter into honest dialogue, accept being misunderstood for a season in order to rebuild, then restoration remains outside the door. If you speak of healing while still clutching bitterness, refusing to let me touch the wound, refusing to let me uproot false beliefs at the root, then your I receive lines will be nothing more than temporary tape over a deep injury. What I long for is to see you use your tongue to agree with my plan, rather than to pull me into yours. I rejoice when I hear you confess, Lord, let your will be done in my life. Even when it differs from mine, that is a declaration that truly shakes heaven. I am deeply moved when you courageously say, I do not want to continue the pattern of sin in my family. Begin with me, even if it means I must walk a lonelier road. These are the words of someone who has embraced the cross. Not only miracles, those words do not need to be typed under any post, because I have already read them written in tears in the secret place. I want to lift a burden from your shoulders. You do not have to keep shouting. You do not need to stay constantly activated. You do not have to force yourself to look strong just so I will hear you. I heard you even before you knew how to name what you were carrying inside. I was there when you sat silent, unable to say anything beyond a sigh. I have counted even the moments you only whispered within yourself. I wish my life could be different, when you still could not shape it into a complete prayer. I tell you this, you do not need anyone to acknowledge you, because I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. You do not need to click received anywhere to make sure my favor will not be misplaced, because I, myself, am the one who runs to seek you when you are lost. Yet I also invite you not to underestimate the power of concrete decisions. If you truly long for spiritual breakthroughs, begin with steps that may seem colorless. Choose truth instead of avoidance. Choose to stop before the temptation to deceive. Choose to set healthy boundaries with relationships that are pulling you away from me. Choose to set aside fixed times to be alone with me, even when those hours feel dry and carry no special sensation. These are actions no one will ask you to comment, to confirm, yet they leave deep marks in the history of your life. Each time you choose faithfulness in secret, invisible cords that once bound your entire family begin to snap, little by little. Each time you step out of a sinful habit, you close a door that generations before you did not have the courage to shut. And each time you turn back to me after you fall, You prove that the cross is stronger than any curse. I am not saying these things to mock those who sincerely repeat another person's suggested prayers, or who practice symbolic gestures with simple-hearted devotion. I see small souls who believe that if they speak along, if they write it out, that is the little they know to do to express faith. I honor that simplicity. What I want to warn you about is not a sincere heart, but teachings that unintentionally push you into thinking the core of faith is technique, emotional intensity, spiritual urgency, power-boosting spiritual secrets, rather than a real relationship with me. I came to draw you out of dependence on such things and lead you into something deeper and steadier, where you can stand in the night and still know with certainty that you are loved. In the end, child, I want you to understand that your words truly matter, but not because they can manipulate me. They matter because they can open or close the door of your heart before me. When you use your mouth to curse, to judge, to sow bitterness, you bind yourself to darkness. When you use your mouth to give thanks, to ask forgiveness, to bless, to rise from old ruts, you are opening your heart for light to enter. So if you want to declare something today, let it be simple and true. Lord, I do not want to live only to demand miracles anymore. I want to live to belong to you. When you say that, and then keep repeating it with the whole shape of your life, that is the kind of declaration heaven and earth remember. I do not need you to type into a comment box to confirm. I need you to let me rewrite your life with the pen of grace upon the pages of ordinary days. You only need to agree with me. And from everything I have just whispered to you about the cross and quiet faithfulness, now I want to lead you deeper into what many people call blessing. So you will no longer confuse flashy human promises with my true heart. You often hear seductive voices saying that if you believe the right way, do a few things right, read a few lines right, then your life will enter an explosive zone where money pours in. Health has no blemish. Emotions stay permanently exhilarated. And relationships turn around overnight. I know words like that easily lull a weary soul, because they press on the painful places in your heart, unpaid debts, test results that frighten you, long seasons of heaviness, relationships that shattered and left you bleeding. I do not blame you for trembling at promises of being blessed like that. I understand your dream of a lighter life. But because I am Father, I cannot let you stop at the surface. I want to give you real blessing, not a mirage decorated with religious language. So today I will speak to you honestly. These things may not stir intense emotion, but if you let them sink deep, they will release you from many chains you do not even realize you are carrying. When people tell you your finances will swell until giving becomes your greatest pleasure, I can hear the hidden longing beneath it. You want to be generous, to contribute, to live a life not spent clinging to every coin. That longing is good. I placed it in you from the beginning, because you were made in my likeness, the one who gives himself. But my blessing does not always come in the form of a full account. I do not promise you will always live in material abundance. Yet I want to give you a generous heart, so that even when you have little, you still know how to share without fear of lack. I want to teach you a joy deeper than watching numbers rise, the joy of seeing another person strengthened through your quiet giving. I can grant you business opportunities, open doors for work, arrange surprising provisions so you are not abandoned in scarcity. But what I care about more is whether you allow these things to make you open-handed or to make you cling tighter. True blessing is not when money runs after you, but when your heart no longer runs after money. The day you can look at wealth without fear of losing it, ready to let go. When I call that day, you step into a kind of freedom no outward abundance can ever give. People also tell you opportunities will knock so often you will not know which path to choose. I know behind that is the fear of being stuck, blocked, left outside the good things of life. I have seen you sigh in secret because it feels as if your life has no turning point, no big door opening. You compare yourself to others and ask, Lord, when will it be my turn? But child, my blessing is not measured by the number of doors that never close. It is measured by your ability to walk with me even when you see only a narrow path ahead. Sometimes I will open opportunities beyond imagination, and you will marvel at my providence. Sometimes I will lead you to crucial intersections where one decision changes the direction of your whole journey. But there will also be long stretches when it seems nothing new is happening. I'm not in a hurry, because I am engraving into you something more precious than any breakthrough perseverance. I want you to learn to choose not the most dazzling door, but the door most aligned with my will. I want you to know how to stop, listen, discern rather than run frantically out of fear of missing your chance. Blessing is not in many doors knocking at once, but in your ability to recognize my voice among the world's many calls. As for your body, I hear what people say your body will harmonize with heaven's frequency. Every cell will be rearranged according to a spiritual health program until sickness disappears. And I understand your very human longing. You do not want pain anymore. You do not want to lie in a hospital bed. You do not want to stare at cold numbers on a report. I know every time you receive bad news from the doctor, your heart tightens. I know the nights you hold your own body and ask, Lord, why? I hear it all. And I am still the one who can heal. I still do things beyond medical understanding. I still lay my hand on bodies that seem to have no hope left. But my blessing goes deeper than a healthy body. I do not see you through the lens of a diagnosis. You are not defined by a medical file, no matter how heavy it is. I can heal what is outside you, and many times I do. But I also want to heal what is inside: the anger, the shame, the disappointment, the inferiority sickness has sown in you. At times I allow a thorn to remain in your flesh, as I once did for the Apostle Paul. So you learn to lean on me more. So you come to see that my grace is sufficient for you. I do not delight in your pain. Every time you weep from suffering, my heart trembles too. Yet I want to give you a strength. Only those who walk through illness with me truly understand the strength of someone who no longer fears the body's betrayal, because they know this body is only a tent for a time, and your true home is in me. For your soul and emotions, I hear declarations that darkness will leave, fear will dissolve, peace will rule the mind, and I know every living being aches for that. You are exhausted from days of tangled thoughts, from panic with no clear reason, from a heaviness that will not lift. I am not far away watching you from above. I am in every ragged breath, in every sleepless night, in every moment you cannot explain why you feel sad. I give peace, but my peace is not a brief surge of excitement. That peace can stay with you even when sorrow has not yet stepped aside, even when chemicals still feel disordered, even when you still must take pills each day. I am not ashamed of you for needing a doctor's help. Therapy, medicine, all these things, when used with discernment and trust, can also become instruments I use to heal you. My blessing in this area is not a mind that never wavers, but a heart that knows how to return to me whenever the waves crash. I want you to learn, gradually, the art of standing firm in the storm, not because you feel no fear, but because you know what to hold on to. I will lead you, little by little, out of dark regions, sometimes by an immediate miracle, sometimes by a long journey of small steps. But in both ways, what I am building in you is hope, not merely comfort. When it comes to relationships, I see your wounds when the one you love turns their back, when bitter words tear at your heart, when promises are forgotten. I hear you pleading for your family to be mended, for friends to understand one another, for wandering children to come home. I share that pain with you, because I am the one who has been betrayed, abandoned, misunderstood. I can rebuild what has been broken. I can bring back those who seem to have vanished, returning them in a renewed version. I have done it, and I am still doing it. But I do not promise that everyone you love will return in the form you expect, or that every relationship will be restored intact. My blessing here is this: I teach you to love without possessing, to forgive without denying the hurt, to let go without freezing your heart. I will place beside you new people, healthy friendships, hearts that can walk with you on the road of faith and love. I will use your story, both the cracks and the places that have been healed, to become hope for others. And there will come a day when you look back and realize there are people I bring into your life for only a season, and there are people I keep to walk with you for the long journey, and both are grace. The blessing is not that you have a perfect circle that never changes, but that you become a carrier of peace in whatever circle you are placed within. My child, people tell you that if you stay close to someone who is anointed, you will share in their breakthrough. But I tell you that I want you yourself to become a source of blessing to others. I did not form you to live forever by borrowing the warmth of those who seem more spiritual than you. I want to pour into you a kind of fire, quietly smoldering, yet enduring, so that anyone who draws near you will sense something of me, a timely word of comfort, a simple act of kindness, a faithfulness that makes no noise, a strange hope that does not depend on circumstances. When you allow me to reshape your heart, your very presence will become a blessing to those around you, even when you do not notice it. Blessing is not you searching for those who carry anointing and sitting beside them, hoping it will transfer. Blessing is you allowing me to write your story in a way that helps others see me through you. So when I speak to you about blessing, I am not reading out a list of certainties so you can feel safe that your life will run smoothly. I am not the one who signs a contract guaranteeing you will always be prosperous, always healthy, always happy, always loved in exactly the right way. I come to give you a deeper life, a life in which, whether you have much or little, whether you are strong or weak, whether you are welcomed or overlooked, you do not lose your foundation. That foundation is me. When I am your treasure, everything else may change and you will not collapse. Then, if I give you specific gifts, a good job, a healing, a restored relationship, you will receive them with gratitude. But you will not bind yourself to them. And if those things do not come as you expect, or if they come and then pass away, you will still not doubt my love. Today, if you want to receive blessing, I invite you to receive it not by imagining a future without pain, but by opening your heart right here in the present. Let me touch the way you look at money, the way you understand your body, the way you face the waves within, the way you treat the people beside you. Let me slowly change the inner structures of your life, so you no longer live dragged along by fear, by scarcity, by the need to prove yourself, but live from the place of knowing you are loved. That is the deepest blessing, and from that blessing, many other things will flow, not always loudly, but enough for you to recognize my hand weaving your life, thread by thread. You may not have everything the world calls signs of spiritual success, but if you have me, if you dare to live faithfully, if you dare to love in silence, if you dare to cling to the cross, even when the miracle does not happen the way you wanted, then, in my eyes, you are living a life far more blessed than you realize. My child, after teaching you to recognize the value of quiet days and the silent cross, I also want to tell you something else. It is not because I love slow footsteps that I forget the hours when I intervene clearly. I am not the one who is present only in the night. I am also the one who makes dawn blaze after nights that seem endless. You have walked through many seasons of drought, and there were times you wondered, is the Lord still doing anything in my life? I was there, day after day, quietly shaping you. And then there will be moments, not for display, but so that people can see that those years that seemed silent were never meaningless. There will be moments when even those who do not believe in me will be astonished. Why can this person still stand? Why didn't they collapse? Why, in the middle of so much loss, do they still carry a peace we cannot explain? That is when I reveal myself, not with fireworks on the outside, but with an unexplainable strength within you. The turning point I am preparing for you may not look like what the world calls spectacular success, but it will be so unmistakable that no one can deny that another hand greater than all human calculation has touched this life. Do not think that the breakthrough I promise always means a worldly, life-flipping change. Yes, sometimes I open a door of work that you have knocked on for a long time with no answer. Yes, sometimes I untie a financial or family knot that no counselor could solve. There are times I truly intervene in circumstances unexpectedly, not to prove my power, but to protect your small faith from shattering. But what I treasure most is not the change of circumstances, it is the transformation of the heart. The shift I love most is when someone who was once bitter learns to forgive. When a soul that once closed itself dares to trust again. When someone who once chased miracles begins to cherish the cross. When that happens, even if the world does not clap loudly, all of heaven rejoices. I want to tell you this, what I am about to do in you. First of all, will be an inner liberation. The fear that has sunk into your bones, the shame you have carried for years, the invisible chains that bind your soul, I will break them, step by step, not merely through one burst of emotion that fades, but through a real journey, where each layer of darkness in you is brought into the light. And when you rise, those who were used to the weary, heavy version of you will have to admit, this person is not the same anymore. The enemy thought it had shaped the story of your life. It looked at repeated failures, at your stumbles, at wrong decisions, at layered wounds, and it whispered, it's over, this one will never rise again. They will live their whole life in shame, in sadness, in regret. It gathered all your mistakes and built a wall inside your own thoughts, so that whenever you try to move forward, you hear an echo in your mind. You're a loser. You're broken. You're unworthy. It does not need to bind your hands and feet. It only needs to bind your faith that I can still make all things new. It does not have to destroy your outer life if it can make you believe your past has permanently decided your future. It has already won. But, my child, it miscalculated one thing. I do not write your story with its ink. I do not use the diary of failures it prepared as the script for what remains of your life. I am the only one who can enter the messy chapters of your history, not to erase them as though they never happened, but to turn those very stains into a place where mercy is revealed. I do not deny what you have been through. I am willing to lay my hand on it, heal it, and then use what once made you ashamed as a story of deliverance for others. When I say I will stand on your side in the battle, that does not mean you will never be wounded. There will still be words that pierce your heart, looks that numb you, judgments that steal your breath. There will be those who misunderstand, those who turn away, those who use your old mistakes to imprison you in an image you have tried so hard to leave behind. There will be nights when you lie there feeling as if everything is against you. But there is one thing the world and the powers of darkness cannot touch: the deepest place in your soul, where I have spoken your name, where I have claimed you as mine, where I have engraved this truth: you are my beloved child. No weapon aimed at that place can pierce it unless you yourself believe the lie. The plans of darkness may slow you down, may bring you to tears, but they cannot erase what I have spoken over you. They may build many walls, but they cannot stop me from passing through walls. They may close many doors, but they cannot lock the path I open in the middle of concrete barriers. You will not be exempt from every impact, but I promise you no blow can steal from my hand what I am building within you. The accusations, the barbed remarks, the contempt, the dark predictions people have spoken over your life, I have heard them all. Not so I can keep a ledger and take revenge, but so you can know they do not get the final word. Those judgments may make you tremble for a moment, but in my court they have no authority to decide your destiny. I do not define you by the labels people place on you. I also do not allow cruel words to become prophecies over your future, even as insults rise up to diminish you. I am standing there not merely to soothe you with a few "don't be sad" lines, but to declare another reality. You are not what they say, and you are not what your past recorded. You are the one I am patiently shaping day by day. In time, you will see that the words that once wounded you so deeply will lose their weight, because the weight of the truth I speak to you each day will be far greater. That is a kind of victory few people talk about, not an outward victory, but the victory of no longer being bound by false judgments. My child, let me lead you into a different kind of glory than anything you have ever imagined. Not the glory of stage lights, but the glory of a soul that has passed through fire and come out refined. Not the glory of human applause, but the glory of the gaze I give when you choose what is right even when no one sees. Not the glory of every earthly door swinging open, but the glory of inner freedom, the certainty that even if someone shuts a door in your face, you still have a home in my heart. I could, if I wished, place you in situations that make people astonished, forced to admit, God is at work, but I will not do it to satisfy a thirst for attention. I will do it when your heart has grown humble enough to know that what happens is not meant to exalt you, but to exalt me. Then your story, whether simple or extraordinary, will become a living testimony of my faithfulness. Do not be afraid that your life will pass by without meaning if it has no dazzling turning points. Even if your breakthrough unfolds more quietly than you expected, it can still touch those around you in ways you never foresaw. A family member who used to see you quick-tempered now witnesses you becoming more patient. That is a sign. A friend who once heard you complain now sees you at peace in adversity. That is a sign. A child growing up in your home watches parents who, despite their struggles, remain faithful to pray each night. That is a sign. These things never make sensational headlines, yet in my eyes they are undeniable miracles. And when someone, at some point, asks you, how can you stand so firmly, you will have the chance not to tell a dazzling story, but to whisper, because God did not abandon me in the days I thought I had completely collapsed. My child, what I am preparing for you is not merely a supernatural performance to prove something to others, but a deep liberation for you yourself. I will lead you out of the shadows of shame, out of the cage of always needing human approval, out of the obsession that you must have intense experiences before you dare believe I am there. I will teach you to recognize me in ordinary breath, in slow-moving time, in the days you feel you are nothing special, and then, quite naturally, those around you will become curious about what has changed in you. They will not see a religious superhero. They will simply see someone real, someone who has been shattered, someone who has fallen many times, yet now carries a gentle light in their eyes. That light is not yours, it is mine, reflected through the cracks. This is the victory I love, the victory of grace, passing through weakness, not the victory of flawless appearances. So keep walking, not in an obsession with waiting for a dramatic moment, but in trust that each day I am still at work. Perhaps one day I will let you live something that makes everyone who looks on confess, the hand of God is here. But even before that day, I am doing something greater, making you become like my son. Anything that does not serve that purpose, I will not allow to sweep you away, no matter how dazzling it seems. And anything tears, losses, misunderstandings, silence that helps you root more deeply in my love, I will use it all. That is how I break the enemy's plans, not always by removing every outward hardship, but by turning them into material for building a free soul. And a soul like that, my child, is the loudest testimony about me in this world. My child, after everything I have just said to you about the cross, about quiet faithfulness, about days with no applause, I want you to hear one more thing like a whisper I place close to your ear. You have not been handed over to darkness. You have not been abandoned to a bleak fate. You are not walking through this life like someone easily toppled by invisible schemes. Even if you feel weak, even if you tremble again and again, even if in others' eyes you seem small, there remains a truth no one and no power can touch. Your life is in my hands, not in part, not only in certain seasons, but entirely. Your destiny is not written by human tongues, not decided by the devil's calculations, but woven little by my will and my mercy. I am the one who called your name among countless faces, the one who saw you before you appeared, the one who kept you through seasons you thought you could never survive. There is no reason I would abandon you halfway down the road like this. Think about it. If I did not spare my only son, if I allowed him to embrace the cross for you, would I then leave you to the enemy's attacks? There will be times in life when, looking back, you will notice something strange. It is not that no arrows were aimed at you, but that they could not pierce the depths of your heart. It is not that there were no venomous words, contemptuous glances, harsh rejections, but that they could not kill the calling within you. It is not that there were no nights when you felt everything was conspiring against you, yet there was still an unseen cord holding you steady, keeping you from falling into the abyss. That cord is my hand. People only see the storm, only see failures, only see the times you were pushed back, but I know that in those moments I was drawing you closer to my heart than ever. I do not deny the enemy tries to strike, tries to discourage you, tries to distort how you see yourself and how you see me, but it is not the author of your life story. It can create interference. It can make your path uneven, but it does not hold the pen. The pen is in my hand, and I have never given it to anyone else. Do you know why? In some seasons, when you choose simplicity, when you accept being unseen, when you do not compete the way the world does, people look at you with pity sometimes, even with a hint of mockery, because they measure distance by the leaps of this world, not by the quiet steps of grace. They see you refuse deception and conclude you will never rise. They see you refuse to compete through schemes and assume you will always remain behind. They hear you speak of the cross, of faithfulness, of prayer, and think these are luxuries for people who are not realistic enough. They gather, they gossip, they predict, they draw scenarios where you are always the one who loses. But my child, human understanding is very short. They see only a thin fragment of the picture while I am sketching an entire tapestry. They measure success by noise, but I measure by depth. They judge results by where you stand today, but I look to where I will lead you tomorrow. I hear what people say about you, even when you do not hear it. I witness the times you come home after a day of being judged, compared, looked down on, and you lie there asking me in silence, Lord, am I truly on the right path, or am I only deceiving myself that I am obeying you? I was there in that question, and I have remembered your tears, precisely when you have no evidence except my word. precisely when you have nothing to hold on to except the promise I placed in your heart. That is when your faith is engraved deeply into me, and you do not know it. But in those very moments, I am preparing something beyond what you can imagine. I do not wait for applause before I write the next part of your story. I write when no one is paying attention. I do not wait for people to acknowledge you before I work. I work in the chapters the world assumes have already ended. Do not think I do not see the judgment spoken over you. I know some have crossed your name off from their respect, stamped failure over your life in their thoughts, whispered or declared that you will not go far, that your spiritual way of living is naive, that you will eventually return to thinking like they do. They look at your simple exterior, they look at your unusual choices, and they conclude you are moving backward. But my child, sometimes to go deeper in me, you must accept stepping back from races I never called you to run. Sometimes to keep your soul clean, you must accept standing outside games the world celebrates. They think you have been cut out of the race. But in truth, I am leading you into another road, a road only those who embrace the cross can understand. Today, perhaps you still have not seen any breakthrough like people often talk about. Perhaps you still do not have dramatic reversal stories to tell before a crowd. Perhaps in many people's eyes, everything about you still looks the same as before. But inside, I know the foundation is being dug deeper. Patience is growing. Trust is maturing. Love is being refined. And I, in my patience, am arranging each small detail so that at a certain time, when you are ripe, when your heart is no longer swept away by cheap glory, I will allow what I have planted in you to rise above the surface. Then those who once only looked at appearances will have to recognize that an unseen hand has been steering your life. I am not speaking of a spectacle in the world's way. I am not promising to lift you high so you can win against others. What I am preparing for you is not revenge, but a revealing not of your ego, but of the work I have patiently carried out in you. A time will come, one way or another, when I will lead you into what I intended from the beginning, not merely a position, but an inner stature, not merely an outward door, but a spiritual depth, not merely an external testimony, but a life that reflects the face of my Son. And when that happens, those who underestimated you will be forced into silence, not because you rise to take revenge, but because the truth will be too clear. No one can extinguish what I have decided to make flourish. I see the day when those who once looked down on you will be stunned to find you standing firm in the very place where they predicted you would collapse. I see the day when their words, like blades that cut your heart, will become memories that remind you that I am the one who has the final word over your life. I see the day when those who mocked your gentle choices, your faithfulness, your simplicity will have to face a reality. It was precisely those choices that became the platform that carried you into my plan, not a platform of fame, but a platform of holiness, of quiet yet profound impact upon the people I have entrusted to you. Do not think the breakthrough I am preparing for you is merely a gust of financial wind or a sudden shift in your career. I may renew even those things if they serve my purposes, but the greatest breakthrough I am working is in how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see me. I am delivering you from dependence on the crowd's gaze. I am freeing you from the obsession of having to prove something to the world. I am leading you to a place where you can say, "It is enough that the Lord knows me." When you reach that point, you will discover a kind of freedom you once never dared to imagine. Then, whether I lift you up in the public eye or keep you in the hidden place, your heart will remain at rest because you will no longer measure your worth by outward things. I know you have wanted to give up many times. There were moments you thought, maybe I should live like everyone else, use the same tricks, chase what they chase. At least then, I won't be looked down on anymore. But every time you were about to turn away, something small yet strong within you held you back. That is not your path. That voice is me. I will not allow you to trade your soul for a fleeting feeling of being approved. I will not allow you to sell your cross for applause. I love you too much to let you treat your calling cheaply. So even when you feel left behind, I still keep you here, because I know what you belong to and I am determined to lead you into it to the very end. There will come a day when you stand at a new threshold, and you will understand why I did not allow certain early successes you longed for. You will realize that if I had lifted you too quickly while your heart was still young, you would have been swept away by praise and would have lost my voice. You will understand why I let you pass through long seasons when no one understood you. No one recognized you. No one defended you because those seasons made your roots sink deep into me, rather than cling to momentary glory. And you will thank me for the very things you once complained about. My child, be at peace. No one and nothing can sever you from what I have ordained. They may say, you are out of chances, but I am the one who decides when your hour has come. They may turn their backs, but I will not turn away. They may forget you, but I will not forget. They may shut doors in your face, but I hold the keys to doors they do not even know exist. Your task is not to chase after them, to convince them to believe in you. It is to keep believing in me. Your task is not to prove they were wrong. It is to live in such a way that one day, simply by looking at your life, they will have to admit for themselves that there is a God at work. And remember this, as the closing line I want to carve deep into your heart today, your story is not over. This current passage is not the final page. What people say about you is only a temporary commentary, not the official summary of your life. I am writing, I am still writing, I have not placed the final period. Every morning you wake with breath in your chest is another morning. I add a new line to the book of your life. Sometimes I write with tears. Sometimes I write with smiles. Sometimes I write with silence. Sometimes I write with surprises, but no matter what, I never set my pen down halfway. Keep going. Keep carrying your cross. Keep being faithful. Keep choosing me each day. The rest leave it to me. And one day, when you look back, you will say to me with a heart full of gratitude, Lord, I understood nothing in the early chapters, but now I see truly, you held my hand through it all. And the story you wrote is more beautiful than anything I ever tried to draw up for myself. Now, be still. Open your whole heart and speak to me the most honest prayers from the depths of your soul. Almighty God, my eternal Father, today I come before your presence with all the trembling and the wounds within me. I have lived too long with fearful voices, with cruel conclusions telling me I am not enough, that I will fail again, that I am unworthy for you to use. There are anxieties I have never dared to name, never dared to confess to anyone, and I have allowed them to quietly gnaw away at my heart. Father, give me the courage to place those fears into your hands, as though I were writing them down on a sheet of paper and watching them turn to ash. Help me understand that the moment I face the truth without hiding, without pretending, is the moment your grace begins to go deeper into my life. Let me believe that my identity is not decided by the lies in my mind, but by your promise to me that I am your beloved child, that my life has a place in your heart. Break in me the habit of running away. Heal the memories that make me shrink back whenever I think about the future. Teach me to say to myself and to the darkness, I am no longer a slave to fear. I belong to God. And Father, day by day, teach me to walk in that freedom, even when my legs still tremble, my eyes still blur, and my heart still feels weak. Kind and merciful Father, many times I have thought that to be answered by you, I needed to follow a certain procedure, to pray strongly enough, to perform well enough. I have unknowingly turned my relationship with you into a quiet bargain without even realizing it. Today, As I look back on the road behind me, I see that you have patiently waited for me, not where I got the formula right, but where my heart dared to truly open. Forgive me for the times I came to you, only seeking results instead of seeking you, yourself. Forgive me for the times I longed for outward miracles while fearing to let you touch what is inside me. Give me a new heart that knows how to come to you as to a father who is waiting, not as to a supernatural machine that responds on demand. Teach me to pray like a trusting child, bold enough to speak honestly about my wounds, my limits, my weaknesses, without fear that you will scold me. In the sacred place of prayer, let your will become greater than mine, and let my will be reshaped to align with your ways. Let me experience the peace of one who no longer needs to perform, no longer needs to prove anything, only to remain in the Father's embrace and let the Father do the rest. Lord, I bow my head in thanksgiving, because you have not grown weary of my misunderstandings about you. Time and again I treated you like a key to a treasure vault, like a financial patron, like a refuge I ran to only when panic struck. I demanded that you fix what I saw as urgent, and I sulked when you were silent. Yet you still waited, still taught, still gently corrected me little by little. I thank you for not abandoning me in that fog, but using it to show me how I needed to grow. I thank you for every time you did not do things my way, though I did not understand then, because through it, you kept me from being dragged into a pit by my own greed and fear. I thank you for always being Father, even when I treated you as merely a solution. Let this gratitude help me live more worthily, asking for less, surrendering more. Father, the source of all comfort, I want to thank you not only for the days when I saw miracles, but also for the seasons when I saw nothing, and yet you still kept me. I thank you for the crosses you have allowed me to carry being misunderstood, relationships that did not go as I wanted, plans that fell apart, dreams I had to set aside. Without those things, perhaps I would never have learned humility, perseverance, and quiet endurance. I thank you for the nights I cried and dared not let anyone know, because in those moments, you were closer to me than ever. I know there were times you could have lifted the burden from my shoulders instantly, yet you chose to walk with me through the whole journey. I thank you for that love, a love that does not indulge every demand I make, but always seeks what is best for my soul. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong community of faith.